How's it going, my wonderful, amazing people that are listening or watching my podcast right now? Thank you so much. I am Katie Brannon, and this is Tea Time True Crime with Catie. I was going to wait another day to let my throat heal because as you can see, I don't have my normal voice. So if this bothers you, I do apologize, but I've been working really hard for the past few days on this case. This case is extremely controversial, and this is going to be a long one because I gathered up actual circumstantial evidence, forensic evidence. It's pretty wild, and I'm going to, spoiler alert, have to talk about a child and a mother. So without further ado, warning, this podcast contains adult situations, domestic violence, just sad, not a good time. But I want to do this story because Joanne and Alex, they shall never be forgotten. And again, if this is the first time listening or watching a podcast, hi, welcome. You are so happy. I'm so happy for you to be there. I know I'm already sending you happy energy vibes. So my podcast, I do something differently. I do my own research. I look at many things, many podcasts, videos, articles, all the things. And I'm surrounded by protecting, loving crystals, and I have white candles lit around me to keep the positive energy, because when you're listening, I do not invite any negative feelings into your life or your psyche or anything like that. I do these videos for awareness and advocacy, and also not just me, but for people who are listening or watching, being a voice for the voiceless. Now, you guys, it is September, and it is like one of my favorite months, not because it's my birthday month. I just love the weather and the fall and everything, and then pumpkins and leaves, and all the fall cozy kind of things. So I do have candles lit behind me, and I just want to say, please grab a comfort item, maybe grab a snack, because again, this is going to be a long one. And this is very rough to hear. At the end of my podcast, I will describe the crime in really intense details. So, warning. Sending positive energy and loving energy to the people that have been affected by this brutal case. Today's podcast, I'm going to be, I sip tea. That's why it's called Tea Time True Crime with Catie. And I really need this tea because my voice is like shot. And this mug was a gift of mine from a friend. And it has like Mario characters on it. It's a good time. It's a good vibe. But what's not a good vibe is what I'm going to be talking about. Now, I have a lot of information for you guys, okay? So as I said, this is a private space, this is a safe space, and we're talking about real people here. Real people that lost their lives in a brutal, traumatic way. We're talking about someone who almost got away with it, and we are talking about a Pennsylvania town that it just scarred them. So I'm going to name 3 people in this crime. We have Joanne Katrinak. Joanne Katrinak was born October 11th, 1968. That makes her a Libra. And we're talking about Alex Katrinak. He was a 4-month-old infant baby. Was born August 21st, 1994. I believe he's almost on the cusp, but I believe he is still a Leo and not yet a Virgo. Patricia Rohrer, she was born January 24th, 1964, makes her an Aquarius. Andrew Katrinak, I could not find specifically his birthday, but it did say September. And I bet, that could be Virgo or Libra. But how all these are like panning out, I mean, I'm not sure. If you guys know exactly his birthday, please let me know down in the comments below. But I'm feeling like, I don't know. I was feeling Virgo vibes, but then I'm like, it could be Libra vibes. So, but anyway, I am very much into astrology, and I believe our signs do matter. So, we got that out of the way. Now, we are going right at the crime scene. Not when the crime occurred, but we're going towards the crime scene. Like, steps before what happened. Now, what happened was that when the police entered the home of Joanne, Alex, and Andrew Katrinak's residence in Kawasawa, Pennsylvania in 1994, they noticed that the phone lines were cut. Because what happened was that day, Joanne was supposed to go Christmas shopping and with her mother-in-law. And they had a very close relationship. Now, as she was going to go shopping, and this is like the last known whereabouts, the plan was for her to take baby Alex and her to go Christmas shopping. Well, when Andrew came home from work, like at 6:30, maybe 7, they weren't home. Now, in the beginning, he didn't really worry because he's like, listen, they probably hit traffic. It is Christmas time. It is December. It could happen. But it was like 2 hours later, he really, really began to worry because he was like, I have not heard from Joanne at all. So he goes and contacts his parents. Of course, he's horrified to find out that Joanne never went Christmas shopping. And he calls the police. They find out the phones were cut and the basement was actually broken into. They did find her car, Joanne's car, at a little tavern. And when the car was found, it had tiny hairs, like blonde hairs. The car was actually found backed in to the parking spot, and Joanne wasn't known for backing up vehicles. That's fine, boo-boo. I'm the same. So she never ever backed up her vehicle. She always just parked right in, front ways. I feel like that's the easy way. But this is back in the 90s. So Andy was like a prime suspect. Yes, it's always the husband, Usually, not always, sorry. So Joanne and, Andrew have been married. They're actually they're in the honeymoon stage. And they just had a 4-month-old baby named Alex. And everything is right in the world. They're very much in love with each other. He believes he found the love of his life. Everything is just awesome, at this point. But then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Joanne and Alex are missing. And police and everyone are baffled. Of course, the police said, well, maybe she ran away. Maybe the marriage isn't as good as you think it was, Andrew, and she ran away. But her parents made a good point. They're like, listen, they were fine in the marriage. Everything seemed great. And plus, if our daughter wanted to run away, she would come home, which is true. You would go home with your parents, God forbid, if something was happening. So, of course, police were like, okay, then there's definitely an abduction. There's definitely a kidnapping. So police are getting tips after tips after tips, and the FBI actually gets involved because this is 1994, people. This is like unheard of. This is Christmas time. A young mother, 26 years old, and a 4-month-old baby just disappear and abducted with no trace. So of course the FBI and police really felt for that. Like it's horrible. They really wanted to solve this case, and they really thought that, they would solve it and have a better outcome. So FBI and police actually flew in a behavioral profiler, like an FBI profiler. And that is someone who basically does the psychology of the killer. which that's why I'm very fascinated about true crime, period, because I'm very interested in psychology, human emotions, human behavior. Why do people tick? You know, stuff like that. Let me know down in the comments below if you're like that as well. And if so, you are my people. You are my people. Okay. So originally, they thought the attacker was a male because the attack was so brutal. I will get to it. I will go really into the attack. But right now, I have to like talk about the evidence and forensics, because now you have people in 2023 want this girl out. They're like, she was wrongfully convicted. She's innocent. Don't worry, you know, I'll feed you baby birds. I found a lot of evidence. A lot of it's circumstantial, but you decide. So, now, the FBI profiler. The abduction was taken in broad daylight, where the killer was actually comfortable to be seen in a small town, okay? It's like a small town in Pennsylvania. Now, the killer actually knew families' habits and also the layout of the home. Investigators drove Andy around where the body was found because sadly it took 4 months, but the body was found of baby Alex and Joanne. Yeah, it's tough. Again, I mean, not again. I wasn't going to do this story because this story is incredibly like fucked up. Like, I mean, this story would not leave my head for a long time. It was until I heard that, Andrew believed in spirituality and he believed in psychics. So while his infant son and his wife was missing, he would go around to psychics and ask about where they're found or any information on the case. And I was like, oh wow, so he believes in spirituality and psychics and all that. And I'm like, well, you know what? I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do my best to tell the story and also talk about the forensic science, because it's very, very fascinating. So sadly, he did reach a psychic in Louisiana, and she did say that they will be found, but of course, not alive. Really, really sad. It's tragic that a man would go round and round to psychics just to have any clue of where they went. And you disappear around Christmas? That has got to be absolutely awful. So, we're going to go back to when the police drove Andy around. And they drove around where the body was found. And they were like, listen, Andy, your wife and child were found around this area. And the area was called Heidenberg Township. It was a small rural area. And, you know, they want to show him there, like maybe something will jog his memory. Maybe he'll know someone who actually, knew the area. And remember, like I said, Andrew was looked at as suspect, but he was very cooperative with police. He had an airtight alibi, and he passed a polygraph test. So there's that argument. So now, while they're at Heidenberg Township, and he's just trying to think, he's like, well, I don't know. He's looking around. He's just trying to figure out what area it was. And then when the police were taking him back, something did jog his memory. He actually remembered his ex-girlfriend, Patty Rohrer, taking care of horses in that area because he visited her there. Yeah. Police were shocked because when they were like investigating everyone that everyone knew and all that, they cleared Patricia. They did. She had all these alibis and everything like that, so she was cleared. But as soon as Andrew said, I know this area, my ex-girlfriend, horses, you know what I'm saying? So I'm going to just briefly touch on Patricia a little bit. So Patricia, like I said, is an Aquarius. And she was the kind of woman that actually was like, don't mess with me. Yeah, she's one of those terrifying women that, you know, she has to win. She just is very competitive, and she just, you know, when she sees something, she goes for it. And I was kind of impressed by her because I was like, dang girl, you go, you know, you're winning all this stuff. You're like an actual cowgirl, you know, she's rough and tough. But what I didn't like was there was evidence of abuse to the horses. The horses was neglected and skin and bones, so she had charges against her. She also had a trail of ex-boyfriends that were terrified of her. Yeah, it's very rare in domestic violence cases that the male is afraid, but this is one of those cases where Patricia was like one of those women who threatened their men like to make a point with a gun, just something little, and she would just fly off the handle. She had like a temper. Andrew mentioned she did have a temper, but he would never ever imagine that she would be involved in his wife and baby's death. So Patty and Andy, they date like off and on, okay? So they date, and they broke up in 1989. But weirdly, I found evidence that even though he went on and she went on, she had boyfriends. And he just, you know, it's very, very strange because she would come up and be with him. He said it was a friendship, but maybe it was like a friends with benefits. Who knows? But there may have been evidence where there was sexual connection. So again, they break up in 1989, but in 1991, Patricia actually visited Andrew unexpectedly after having a fight with her ex-boyfriend. Now, this is all before Andy met Joanne. Joanne comes in the picture soon after. So Andrew let Patricia stay for a few days out of sympathy and also out of friendship. And I mean, we don't know what really happened between them. He said it was, like I said, friendship. But it seemed like a back and forth thing, like a twin flame kind of thing, toxic, it seems like. And she returned to North Carolina. Now, afterwards, you know, Andy met Joanne. Joanne was this raven, oh my gosh, raven colored, just beautiful hair. I mean, what is that expression, you guys? Like this raven soft hair. Curly, young girl, beautiful girl. Her dream was to be in the to work with the fashion industry. And they met. When Andrew first saw Joanne, he explained that it was love at first sight. Now, it seems like the relationship between Patricia and Andrew is over. Andrew is with this woman. They actually, you know, not this woman, but Andrew is with Joanne. And things are amazing. They actually get married in the spring of 1993, and less than a year later, Joanne was pregnant. It's amazing. Now, one thing I forgot to mention, forgive me, but Patricia Rohrer, she was married before. I believe she had a relationship, and she was pregnant and had a baby when she was younger. And sadly, that baby died at just a few months old of SIDS. And when I read that, my heart broke because I just cannot imagine, you know, I'm not a mother, you know, but I can't imagine that, like, you wanted this baby so bad and the baby dies within like 3 months of SIDS. So I'm not excusing the behavior, but I'm just letting you know it's very, very odd. So you have Patricia who went through that trauma. Then you have Patricia who has this rage. Like, she's just temperamental. She has to win. She's like, don't mess with me. She's not afraid of anything. She like pulls fights in bars over a guy, which, let me tell you something. If a guy doesn't want to be with you, why do you want to be with them? I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want to be with a guy who doesn't want to be with me. Just saying. That was my TED Talk. Okay. So again, right now it's really like beautiful love land in Pennsylvania with Andrew and Joanne and baby Alex. Baby Alex, like I said, was born August 21st, 1994. And on December 12th, Joanne received a phone call. Yes, it was Patricia Rohrer, the ex-girlfriend of Andrew. So she called and, Joanne basically told her that, don't call here. And Andy, and I are married. And now we have a baby. And, Joanne basically said not to call there again, which is, duh. Like, basically get over with your life. Like, you know what I'm saying? And Joanne hung up the phone on Patricia. Whoa, apparently doing that just set up a whole string of horrific events. Yeah. I know, it's oh my God. So Andy was basically saying that Patricia did have a temper, like I mentioned earlier, and that, again, he wouldn't believe that it would just be revenge for Joanne just hanging up the phone like that. I mean, Joanne was right to do that. An ex-girlfriend calling the house, and you're married and has a child, like, get over yourself, go away. You know what I'm saying? Joanne didn't do anything wrong. Like, I mean, let me know what you guys would think if your husband's ex-girlfriend just tries to come back into your lives wanting to be together again. Like, what? No. So, after hearing about Heidenberg, is that the name? Sorry, yeah, I was right, sorry. Heidenberg Township, okay? After hearing about Heidenberg Township, the police were like, we need to go through Patricia's alibi again. Like, we need to go and visit where she said she was and get statements and receipts, all the things. Because right now, they kind of just, like, took her word for it. She's a beautiful girl and, like, brunette and... yeah, so the cops were just like, oh, there's no way she could have been that brutal, Well, now the cops are back at her doorstep. And the alibis were this. The tanning salon that she actually claimed to be at that day was closed. And the reason why was because the owner's husband's birthday was that day, and they were over 50 miles away. And the owner of the tanning salon actually had receipts that day that, they were gone. So, bam, lie one. Number one lie, okay? Lie number two. So, the cowboy nightlife. So, the cowboy nightlife is some kind of, I don't want to say like a bar, but it seemed like a bar. But anyway, it's kind of like a dance studio too at the same time, because there is a dance instructor. So the dance instructor knew Patricia as a regular, just knew her very well. And he actually checked his books, and he actually saw that she was not there that particular day. She was there a week before and a week after, but not on that day. Lie number two. Okay, now investigators actually get Patricia's phone records. It showed that she used the phone every day of December 1994 except the 12th through the 15th. Now, despite her alibis, Patricia could not prove to police that she was in North Carolina on the day of the killings. Remember, the killings happened in Pennsylvania, okay? But she could not prove that she was in North Carolina. Now, there's also records, again, that she had violent tendencies, especially over men at bars. She was actually arrested. Now, police need a murder weapon. I know, I'm like gathering of pieces in a case here so you can like figure out what happened to this young mother and child. I will tell you, but it is brutal, okay? I can't imagine. This case gave me nightmares, honestly. So police were looking for the murder weapon, and Patricia, she denied ever owning a gun, okay? And they could not find any record of her owning a gun. So police just kept digging and digging and digging. And they went to one of the horse pastures and found Patricia's ex-boyfriend, Walter Blaylock. He was still working at the stables. He told police that he actually remembered Patricia buying a handgun, okay, for $50 at a yard sale. It was a .22 caliber Jennings, which they actually used for target shooting. But it was a piece of junk gun, he said, because often after the first time you shot it, the gun would jam, not allowing you to fire a second shot. Yeah. July 24th, 1995, FBI and police received a warrant to go through Patricia's property, and they didn't find the gun, but they found caliber .22 shell casings in the backyard. She said it was Blaylock's gun, and it was taken the month before the murders. The case, like I said, it's building on circumstantial evidence. Strangely, though, there were hairs at the murder scene that didn't seem to fit Patricia. Patricia had brown hair, but dirty blonde hair was found. Shortly before the murders, Patricia won a rodeo competition. Yeah, this bitch. Detective Kosovar just had a feeling when he found out she won the rodeo. He contacted the event organizer for photos, because you usually take a picture of the winners. Am I right? And lo and behold, he received those photos. And during that rodeo, okay, like before the murders happened, Patricia's hair was dyed dirty blonde. What? Yeah. I know. It's like these police were working to the bone to figure out what in the world. Okay. So yeah, that does not look really good in her part at all. She's lied like what, 2-3 times to the police. And she also lied about her dyeing her hair. So it's not looking good for Patricia here. Now, the color matched the hairs found in the car, but they needed more proof at a cellular level, okay? So only one strand of hair, because I think they collected like 5 or 6 strands, but only one strand of hair had enough tissue DNA upon the root, okay? So it's like the, you know, like when you have a root of hair and, you know, there's tissue at the end of it, either it fell out or was yanked out, but there's still a little DNA evidence to that strand of hair. Now, forensic scientists were kind of in a little, they were worried because there was testing for this one piece of hair, but if they tested this hair and if it was inconclusive, they would lose their evidence. I know. It's like rock in a hard place here, you know? So, this is so new, you guys. This is in the 90s, but they had mitochondrial DNA testing, excuse me. And it was, like I said, brand new technology, and it was used. This case was one of the first time this technology was used. Now, they only needed about 1 inch of hair for this DNA technology. They took the hairs of the DNA and Patricia's blood, you know, DNA, and they matched it against the hairs during the mitochondrial DNA testing, and it was a match. Bam, we got you, bitch. Okay? Yeah, going down. Okay. June 24th, 1997, police arrested Patricia. Patricia had an 18-month child at the time named Nicole. When she was saying goodbye to her daughter, Nicole, a female officer, Suzanne Pearson, was present in the bedroom. And this is documented, you guys. And she overhears a conversation with her little baby, Nicole. If I would have known I was going to get caught, I would have never brought you into this world. I'm sorry, what? Sounds like a confession to me, bitch. Okay. So with all this evidence mounting, they grab Patricia from North Carolina and bring her to Pennsylvania to face double murder charge. Okay. So you're kind of getting the gist of what happened. There's a gun involved, there's car, there's evidence, there's hair. Now we're going to get to the crime scene. Yeah, are you ready? Because I don't even know if I'm ready. Okay. December of 1994, Patricia broke into the home of Joanne, Andrew, and Alex. Okay? She broke into the home through the basement. She went in when she knew Joanne and baby Alex were alone. She overheard Joanne talking on the phone with her mother-in-law, talking about Christmas shopping and to meet each other, to go shopping. Now, after that phone call was over, Patricia actually goes and cuts the phone lines so Joanne wouldn't call for help. As Joanne was heading to the car, she was grabbing the baby bag and getting ready, grabbing her keys, and also grabbing the car seat. She goes and heads to her vehicle and starts putting the baby in the back seat. Now, she did not realize that Patricia was going to ambush her with a gun. So at that moment, Patricia forces Joanne to the front seat, and through behind the driver's seat, Patricia is holding a gun to Joanne's head and tells her to drive. Joanne is beyond terrified. I have no idea what was talked about in that car. I'm sure she was pleading for her life, but stone cold Patricia, you don't mess with her, okay? So Joanne is forced to drive into this rural area, into this Heidenberg Township, this kind of woodsy area. Now Patricia keeps forcing her to drive, and then when they get there, then she forces Patricia forces Joanne to take the baby out of the car. And I mean, I can't imagine. Joanne must be sobbing, pleading for her life, and she's holding her baby. And as she's being led deeper into the forest, a bottle was dropped, a baby bottle, and also a baby rattle was dropped. Now, she made Joanne get on her knees, and Joanne is begging and pleading for her life while holding her baby. And Patricia, she had no soul. She just had a soul of just jealousy, envy, hatred. And she goes and shoots Joanne point blank in the face, like in her head. So after that, Joanne is down, and then Joanne is beaten to death, bludgeoned to death, 19 times by the butt of the gun. Baby Alex is probably crying, hysterical. And baby Alex, well, Patricia didn't think about baby Alex. Patricia left baby Alex to die. When the bodies were found, they weren't sure if baby Alex was actually suffocated or just left by the elements, because by this time it's December of 1994 and the baby may have froze to death. After the brutal murders, the double murder occurred, Patricia drove Joanne's car at McCarty's Tavern and left it there. She actually backed it in. And Patricia, as soon as possible, left Pennsylvania and went back to North Carolina. In the end, jury found Patricia guilty of double murder and kidnapping, and she is sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole. Such a horrible story. There are definitely documentaries about this story. I first heard about the story on Forensic Files many years ago, and then the story came up again in Deadly Women, and then I was looking at other podcasts and research, and now it's coming that, you know, maybe that Patricia is innocent. I mean, I can't believe it. I was like, are you out of your mind? She had the motive. She literally, there was domestic violence. She like beat up her boyfriend. She was manipulative. And it's weird because when you see this girl, you're like, how? But I don't know if we've all had a lover or someone who broke our heart. Someone who chose someone else. And it was anger, it was envy, but I don't think none of us went and drove the 500 miles. And, I mean, 500 miles, that's a long time in a car. Like, couldn't you just, like, stop off and, like, cool the fuck down and, like, really think about what you're gonna do? And maybe think about, like, oh my God, I've always wanted a baby with Andrew. Maybe he wasn't the one for me. I'll find a boyfriend and I'll have a baby with him. Because honestly, that's what happened. She murdered the innocent. Joanne didn't even know her. They just talked on the phone. Joanne was so sweet, so kind, and made the world a better place, and just had a beautiful baby boy, and just everything was so happy. And then bam, just one mistake. I can't believe it. I mean, I don't think it was Joanne's fault at all, because if you're calling my man and saying you want to be back in our lives, I'd be like, you go, no. And again, if a man doesn't want to be with you, then why do you want to be with him? And I get it. Andrew probably messed with her heart, and vice versa. I don't think either of them are, I mean, you're supposed to be adults and get over shit. But yeah, I did find that people do think she's innocent. They think they botched the forensics because it was too new in technology, which, you know, I can see that. But all the circumstantial evidence and the motive and where the body was found, I mean, come on, people. Let me know what you guys think about this case at the bottom, you know, down the bottom below, please. It is a really rough case. I'm really trying to do Joanne and Alex justice. Alex just entered the world. But I have to say that Patricia actually took 3 lives, because one of the grandparents actually died like a year after the murder of a broken heart. I mean, they say heart attack, but it was definitely a broken heart. So like what Andrew said during his, like, you know, talking to media and stuff, he was saying that she claimed 3 lives and she is never getting out of prison. And even though these people, there's Facebook groups, there's all this stuff about, you know, let her out, she's innocent, the police botched the forensics. I'm like, oh my God. But then the Innocence Project, which is the huge project, the Innocence Project, they actually denied. They denied her. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? Thank you so much for listening or watching. I really appreciate it. If you are interested in true crime and like a different kind of spin about talking about it, definitely hit the like, subscribe, and share. I really appreciate you guys. Again, let me know what you guys think about this case. It's extremely sad. It is literally envy, revenge. It is all the things. But honestly, I'm going to say it again. Why would you be with someone who doesn't want to be with you? I mean, I want it. Like, why? I believe there is someone out there for everyone. I believe if you do not force it, okay? And if you're living your best life, it will come to you. It will. It totally will. Thank you so much, you guys. I say thank you because I'm always full of gratitude. Please know that you are loved and you are cherished. And I need one more sip of tea. Oh yeah, this one, my partner made it. All right, that's chamomile. And it has a quote. We all want to be understood, to be acknowledged, to be loved. Amen, Mario Cup Dude. Until next time, guys, remember, you are doing better than you think. Bye.